Yes.
Hello, Goddess. Welcome back. This is Andrea with You Are Mind, Body, Soul. And in this temple space, I guide goddesses to bridge the mind, body, and soul through psychosomatic education, consciousness reconditioning, as well as alchemy and energetics. Come on in. I hope that you are resting and resetting. I hope that you are enjoying this spring season that we are in. Today, we are going to talk about healing ancestral wounds through one specific but critical way that is really going to show you why you have all of the power and why it is in your hands to be the master over your life and of your journey. So, before I get deeply into the topic, I want to remind you to please like this video so that the algorithm can do its magical, mysterious thing. Please remember to share this video so that other goddesses, such as yourself, can receive this information. And please remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can be reminded when I drop this dope content every Monday. And thank you so much for my subscribers and for your likes and your support of this channel and this free content. So I'm going to hydrate myself real quick. Hopefully you have something good to drink. And let's get into it. And of course, I have my notes. Y'all know how I get down. So, healing generational wounds. This is where it all started for me. This whole concept of you are mind, body, soul. My whole journey through health and wellness, from being a pre-med student to now becoming a life coach and an advocate, an advocate for wellness, all started with me just trying to break ancestral curses, family curses. Oh, wow. Balloons, are you serious? I did not know that. So now I have unhacked two things with this new Zoom video on my fabulous new phone. I love this phone. It's so fun. So it all started with the celebration of overcoming these ancestral wounds. So my journey actually started from a lot of struggle. So a lot of y'all who, if you haven't been on this channel from the start, then you don't know that I was actually born and raised in the hood. I came from a pretty challenging life. But I was very fortunate because my life was super dichotomous. So while I was born and raised in the hoods of South Florida, I also had the privilege of going to a private Jewish school. So I had a very good education in a diverse environment, but I was also exposed to some of the grittier realities of this life. And I was actually born and raised across the street from like the most well-off affluential people of the neighborhood, meaning the dope dealer of the block. Okay, so I'll just keep it real for you with you. And I always just admired like how they were always taken care of. They always had cars, they had nice things in their house, like the yard was always kept, they always had new things. And I always wanted that lifestyle, not necessarily all, the crime based energy aspect of it, but just having nice things. I didn't necessarily grow up with that, but I was fortunate to have a very good education and to also be very cultured. I played several instruments. I was always in the arts. Like, my parents took good care of me. Okay. But there were just some things inside of my lineage that I had to process that created trauma in my body. So I was verbally abused. I was physically abused by one of my siblings. Like, I was going through it. And as I started to grow up and I started to process, the PTSD from childhood and how that showed up in the form of anxiety and depression while still being very intelligent and very ambitious, I started to realize that this required me healing some of these familial curses that I was seeing pass on from generation to generation. And so as I started to get older and I started to recognize this, the work that I was doing and my whole mission in life was just to level up out of this because I knew that there was more to life. And so some of the wounds that I have actually been able to overcome have been number one, being a victim. In my family, there was a lot of abuse and deflected anger onto the youth. I was a victim of that at one point. The verbal abuse, the physical abuse. So this was something that I was seeing being passed on from generation to generation. Lack of motivation, negative thought processes about money, just like having a poverty consciousness, and just being not comfortable with just getting by. And this was something that I always wanted to overcome because, again, I was motivated by what I saw as an example of living the good life, a comfortable life. So as I was going through college, I thought that, becoming a doctor was going to be that route until I went through that entire identity shift, which I talked about in one of March's videos. Okay. So, excuse me. So I wanted my mission and my purpose in life was to be to overcome these things. And as I've gotten older and I've started to do more research, I have found that the one thing that can change everything is through taking responsibility over my life and over my internal environment. So many of the videos that I have created, we talk about self concept and personal reality, and we talk about connecting with your body. Now, all of these things fall underneath the realm of epigenetics. So, as a pre-med student, as a scientist, someone that has a very left brain foundation, scientific foundation, that's what I went to school for, psychology and the biomedical sciences. Um, we were always grown up to understand that there are two things that develop and influence us as we are growing, and that is the whole idea of nature versus nurture. So, on one hand, one end of the field, we have nature. So, those are the specific genes that you were born with that make you look like your parents. Like, let's say that one of your parents always has cold toes. And so you were naturally born with these cold toes. Like, this was passed on to you genetically. The color of your eyes was passed on to you genetically. That is nature's contribution. That is the sperm and the egg. Their contribution to you is how you actually physically show up and some of the traits and some of the characteristics. I know that for one side of my family, we have this strong energy of knowing what we want out of life, going and getting those things, having a high sense of self-worth. This was all inherited through me, through my bloodline. So there is the good, the bad, and the ugly that was naturally passed on through me. But the bad and the ugly stuff was the things that really made me feel heavy and worn out through life as I really started to desire more and to break through those levels. I always felt burdened by like these invisible forces until, as I started to do more research and grow, I started to realize the importance of nurture and how I would be able to conduct the pace of my flow in life. So, nurture is all about the surrounding environment that you create for yourself. So, nature is just pure science, what you were given. And then, nurture is how that science of your natural birth interacts with how you are influencing it through your environment. And so that brings me to the topic of epigenetics. So, genetically, we have been endowed with certain features, these physical features, some personality features that run throughout your life. But when it comes to epigenetics, this is the process and the understanding that you can actually shift your DNA through your physical environment. And the first time that I was exposed to this concept was when I took genetics back in college. It was the most fascinating thing to me. And now that I have been tuned in to certain writers such as Neville Goddard, and then there are a couple of other ones. Joe Dispenza has really good material on this, and there are a few others. I've realized the importance of epigenetics because you can literally change your DNA, your genetic makeup, through changing different things behaviorally as well as in your environment. Because what happens is, even though we have the DNA that was given to us by birth from our mother and our father, DNA has um, a lot of space in it of unused DNA. They call this junk DNA. So what junk DNA does is, number one, it has several different proteins that actually help to structure and make copies and to break down the existing active DNA. Another thing that junk DNA does is it is actually activated through these epigenetic nurturing experiences. So, for example, let's say that in your family, obesity runs in your family, or diabetes, or heart disease, high cholesterol runs in your family. Most of these things are preventative illnesses, and this is why, because of epigenetics. So, when you are, yes, you may be prone to be bigger boned, which is what we call it in the South, when you're a little bit thicker like me. Yes, you may be prone to having diabetes or hypertension, but through the process of shifting your diet and your behavior through exercise, these are going to nurture healthier genetic responses. So I have found through my years of working with nutrition and as a weight loss coach and as a pre-med student and working in medicine for so many years and then transitioning to fitness, that we can actually shift the outcome, the future outcome of our health through these behavioral changes. And this is what epigenetics is. It's because the more that you expose yourself to a particular environment, let's say in the case of creating healthier heart health, if you are exposing yourself, which means you are eating a more higher fiber diet, you're drinking more water, you're eating less fatty and oily foods in your exercise, and you have good cardiovascular health, you are going to be down regulating, which means you are going to be decreasing the possibility of the genetic expression for that particular disease. And I'm not saying that this is across the board, and I'm also want to encourage you to get to get approval from your doctor if you're going to change, anything on a deeper level or supplement or things like that. Check in with your doctor, but you can shift how these things are actually going to manifest in your life So it's like in the video where I was talking about how I had high blood pressure and how I really wanted to change that because I felt like that was going to become a problem because, one of my parents had just got diagnosed with high cholesterol and high blood pressure. So I changed the way that I was eating. I changed my exercise habit. So I changed my genetic expression and the pathway that I was going down by changing the environment that I was hosting for my body, eating more fruits and vegetables, drinking more water. And so we can do this to create more health in our bodies. Furthermore, when you are experiencing emotional challenges or patterns in your life that you feel are hindering you into your personal expansion, and that are creating blockages and limitations to your growth or your manifestations, it is because we want to be shifting ourselves energetically, which is going to affect our biological expression. So it's just like saying one hand washes the other. So your biological expression and the things that we do behaviorally are going to affect us. And then energetically, which is more along the emotional spectrum of things and the way that we process life consciously or unconsciously, are going to affect us biologically in the long run. So, as a life coach, I have made it my business to be able to hack and unlock and demystify these things that get us caught up in these loops of non progression. So, in my latest course, Vibrational Voodoo, Emotional Alchemy, I've actually created a process for you to find emotional healing and to affect yourself on a deeply vibrational level that will shift your expression into more happiness and feeling more juicy and finding more joy and really being able to experience more pleasure in your life. So, we work on shifting our emotional environment through a couple of techniques that I share with you inside of that vibrational voodoo course so that emotionally you can become a master over your environment, which is going to change your energetic expression and ultimately your biological expression. And this is what I have experienced. And so I have created this course for you. You can check it out on yambs.co for more information. I've had so much fun filming this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. One love. Mwah.